Most people today understand the seasons through astronomy, solstices, equinoxes, and the tilting of the earth. But when you compare that with what the Book of Enoch and Jubilees describe, you run into a fascinating tension. The seasons, according to these ancient texts, are divided evenly, 91 days each, forming a perfectly symmetrical 364-day year. But our modern solar year doesn't fit that model. Spring isn't always 91 days. Neither is winter. So what's going on here? Did something shift? Is there a different structure behind the seasons? One that's been forgotten? In this video, we'll explore that question and much more. We'll look into how the Enochian calendar defines seasons and how the temple's orientation may have been tied to the equinox, and how the divisions of light and darkness may have been more central than we've realized. Let's take a closer look at the patterns God may have embedded into his creation. Now, most people are familiar with how seasons work astronomically. We track them based on the positions of the sun in relation to the earth. For example, in 2025, here's how it breaks down. Spring begins with the vernal equinox on March 20th. Summer starts at the summer solstice on June 20th. Autumn begins with the autumn equinox on September 22nd, and winter kicks off at the winter solstice around December 21st. These events are based on the sun's movements in the sky. But here's the problem with that. If we try to overlay the Enoch calendar on top of this modern astronomical model, something doesn't add up. The Book of Jubilees and the Book of Enoch both seem to teach that the seasons should last exactly 91 days. 91 days for spring, 91 days for summer, 91 for fall, and 91 for winter, which gives us a total of 364 days. But according to the astronomical observations, that's not what we see. Spring in 2025 lasts about 92 days. Summer lasts 93 days. Autumn runs only 89 days, and winter is just 88 days. So what's going on? Let's go straight to the source. In Jubilees 6:23 it says, "On the first of the first month, on the first of the fourth month, the first of the seventh month, and the first of the 10th month are memorial days and days of seasons." These 4 days are memorial days and seasonal division points, each marking the start of a new quarter of the year. And if each quarter is 91 days, then those 4 extra days, often called intercalary days, are what define and divide the seasons on the Enoch calendar. In our modern understanding, there's another way to define the seasons. It's called the meteorological reckoning. Unlike the astronomical model, which is based on the sun's position, this system follows the 12-month calendar and relies on the annual temperature cycles. Each season begins on the first day of a specific month and lasts for exactly 3 months, similar to the Enoch calendar. Spring starts on March 1st, summer on June 1st, autumn September 1st, and winter December 1st. These dates are fixed and do not change from year to year, making them ideal for climate tracking, weather forecasting, and statistical analysis. They're widely used today by meteorologists, scientists, and weather services around the world. Neither Enoch nor Jubilees even command us to stay perfectly in sync with the equinoxes or the solstices. In fact, they don't even mention them as the primary way of timekeeping, which is actually something I didn't consider until recently. That said, I do believe there's still something significant about the equinox, especially the spring equinox, when the sun rises exactly due east. I believe it may have been used as an astronomical marker to help us anchor the calendar. This was true for many ancient cultures, and I believe for the Enoch calendar as well. When mapping out the gates, I seem to consistently fall on the equinox due east for the 364th day of the year. The following day is the 365th solar day, which I see as necessary to account for the sun's cycle, or you can call it day 0. Then I begin day 1 of the Enoch calendar on the following day, keeping that as the first official day of the new year. Using this starting point, I found that the sun's movements through the gates stays more evenly aligned year after year. It helps keep the transitions balanced, especially when tracking eastward and westward gate symmetry. But the real focus in Enoch isn't on the tilt of the earth, it's on light. Throughout the Book of Enoch, the divisions of the year are described in terms of the increasing and decreasing lengths of day and night, the divisions of light at the start and end of each month. That's the rhythm Enoch describes, the sun's position within the gates and the measurable patterns of light and darkness that mark the Creator's calendar. As I mentioned in a previous video, Enoch describes unique divisions of night and day, specific ratios of 1:2 and 2:1 in chapters 72:14 and 72:26. These represent the extremes of daylight and darkness. Now, Enoch was taken somewhere on Earth to observe these patterns, but the text doesn't tell us exactly where. It might have been the land we now call Israel, or it could have been somewhere else entirely. The reason I bring this up is because these exact ratios, a day being twice as long as night, or night being twice as long as day, don't currently occur in the region of modern-day Israel. That suggests one of two possibilities. Enoch was observing from a different latitude, or the solar year has shifted since his time. If that addition came after the time of Enoch's writing, it could explain why the light-to-dark ratios have changed in today's sky. Even so, there are only 2 times a year we can observe extreme light and darkness, and that's around the summer and winter solstices. These ratios don't have to align exactly with the solstice dates, but they do fall within that general time frame. It's at these points the day and night reach their greatest imbalance. That's why I believe Enoch's observations were near the solstices, not necessarily on them, but close enough to witness these dramatic changes in light. And there's another clue. The edges of the solar gates, as described in the Enoch calendar, seem to align close to the solstices. That's when the sun reaches its furthest point in one direction, pauses briefly, and then begins its return journey through the gates in the opposite direction. Consider what it says in Enoch 72:26-27. On that day, the night is longer and is double the daytime. The night is 12 parts exactly, and the daytime 6 parts. The sun has completed the chief points of its route. That sounds like a clear description of the winter solstice, when darkness reaches its peak and the sun turns back. However, as I said earlier, this does not mean it's exactly on the day of the solstice, the equinox, and the temple's orientation. In a previous video, I made a case for the equinox playing a central role in the biblical calendar. If you haven't seen that one, it's called Did Sin Break the Calendar? And I'd recommend checking it out for a full breakdown. But here, I want to briefly build on the idea with a few more points. One reason I believe the vernal equinox matters is that it helps maintain symmetry in the sun's movement through the gates, as described by Enoch. When the equinox marks the end of the year, it centers the calendar and ensures the sun passes evenly through each gate. But here's another potential clue, one that's based on architecture. The temple of God was deliberately oriented toward the east, the very direction of the rising sun. Now, why is this significant? Because on the equinox, the sun rises due east at exactly 90 degrees azimuth. That means the entrance of the temple on that one special day would have been perfectly aligned to catch the first light of the new year. This alignment seems to be intentional. It's both practical and spiritually symbolic. There are a lot of articles discussing the spiritual aspect of choosing this orientation, but that's another video entirely. There's also a practical reason the temple faced east. If the temple faced west, the entire structure would have cast a huge morning shadow, making it difficult to perform the daily sacrifices and duties. Facing east allowed the sun to shine directly in, illuminating the work of the priests and serving as a cosmic timepiece for the sacred calendar. And remember, Enoch's calendar is based on the path of the sun through the gates, not just days on a list. The temple's orientation may have been one way to track those gates and to maintain the calendar's integrity. Here on screen are a list of Bible verses that touch on the positioning of the temple. I'm not going to go through every single one because it essentially says the same thing over and over to prove the point that the temple aligned due east. It's very possible that the temple was deliberately aligned so that the rising sun would shine directly into the entrance on the day that the sun passes through the equinox. This orientation would have served a dual purpose, not only to provide natural light for the morning temple duties, but also to function as a calendar marker, allowing the priests to observe the sun's position as it passed through those gates. If the temple was truly aligned due east, then on the equinox, when the sun rises at exactly 90 degrees, its light would have penetrated straight through the temple's entrance. I believe this moment may have symbolized the end of the year and not the beginning, the last day of the 364-day year. The following day is what I believe to be an intercalary day, setting the course for the rest of the year. If you're like me, you don't just want to follow the calendar, you want to understand it. Because behind every day, every division of light, and every gate the sun passes through, I believe there's a message and a designer, one who set everything into motion with wisdom and intention. I'd like to hear your thoughts in the comments, and if you want to go deeper, be sure to check out the previous videos in this series. Shalom.